We're going to dive in today and focus on Follow Up Boss Ponds. I'm joined by Bridget Ahern, our Director of Client Success. How are you, Bridget?
Hello, hello. I'm doing well today. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. It's excited to dive into the Follow Up Boss deals. Um, you
Deals,
know,
deals, deals, baby.
that's right. The deals. We all like deals. Deals should be more appealing in this business than they are than we think they are sometimes. But um cool. So I'll dive in real quick. Also want to mention real quick that our company offers lead management solutions, Follow Up Boss projects, and operations coaching. So if you're interested in those things, we're not too hard to find. You can reply to the email for this webinar if you want to get in touch. So we'll do that. Somebody will drop a link in the chat to our website as well. We have a ton of free resources and things like that. So, but yeah, we're going to dive right into Follow Up Boss deals. So before we share screens and all that, Bridget, just tell us a little bit about like what are deals in Follow Up Boss and why would we want to use them? What's this other thing?
So, deals are your sales pipeline. Deals are money, and money are deals, baby. So, if you are tracking your deals, especially if you don't have some of these more sophisticated like transaction management softwares and stuff, if you're more of like doing it on the spreadsheet, old school, you could have the deals right in Follow Up Boss where it's right there. It's attached to the person that it's with. You could see previous deals from past clients. Um, I mean, really, unfortunately, sometimes we see that it's a little bit underutilized, which is what brings us to this webinar today.
Exactly. Yeah, and like a lot of Follow Up Boss features, these were rolled out a little bit later. So I think a lot of people, even older users, maybe either haven't adopted these or don't know all the cool things that you can do. So yeah, like you said, managing your pipeline, eye on, some people use them pretty deeply for like appointment set, appointment met, did all this stuff happen. Some people, are like, hey, I just want my transactions in there. So pending, closed, keeping it simple like that. But we're going to go through a couple things. I also want to acknowledge that a lot of times in these webinars, we've got people who are agent users on a team, so they're not setting these up, they're just maybe using them, or maybe they're not using them at all. So a lot of times we have team owners and brokers who want to set these things up. So we're going to do our best to cover both the setup and the use. And of course, if you guys have questions, drop them in the Q&A or the chat. Yeah, Bridget, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, let's take a quick look at what deals look like in Follow Up Boss.
Let's dig in, shall we? All right, so you can get to deals conveniently right up at the top of the screen here. And this is kind of your overview of the big sort of pipeline. And they give you opportunities for different folders. So obviously, if you want to separate your, how much you made helping people buy property versus how much property you sold, it's kind of nice to be able to differentiate that. And then this is the office hours account. So a couple of random little things might be thrown in here just because a lot of people have their hands in this account.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll create some deals. We'll go through how to do all that. But having these different, I believe they're called pipelines. The top number are called pipelines, the buyer, seller, recruiting. And then we just call them columns. I guess that's the right term as far as the buyer agreement signed, pending, closed, and lost. Mm-hmm. So, and you can, as the owner, only the owner can modify these. So Bridget, can you click on the gear next to recruiting first? So at the core level, this is where you set up different pipelines. So if you want your renters, if you want to track your renters, but you don't want to mix in with your buyers, you can create a renter pipeline. We're going to go through some other use cases like recruiting in a little bit. Definitely a great use for that. But this is where you would edit it. And again, only the owner of the account can do this, not admins, literally only the account owner. And then go ahead and click on that, the pencil icon there, Bridget, just so we can kind of show, like, you can rename them. And these won't affect anything. If you've got existing boards and you want to change the name,
right,
you can change it. It won't affect the deals that are there, but be mindful that obviously the deals are there. So if you need to create a new one, create a new one. Don't change your, buyer's one to something that doesn't make sense. And then we're going to get into the deal custom fields in a little bit. They do have separate deal custom fields and they're very handy. This is even a newer release.
Yeah. Super new.
But we're going to cover that in a little bit. So Bridget, why don't you hop back to buyers just so we can show like, and we'll just create, oh, select a team member. We have a couple of fake ones in here, but you're welcome to create a new one. For some reason, it's showing only certain people.
Some of our deals here. And also these different ones, these deal stages, they're not created equal across the board. So it's not like your stages for your main people column. You can have different deal stages for buyers than what you have for sellers, because obviously a little bit kind of different of a transaction history. Some people like to have their pre-listings when they're getting things ready and stuff. And then obviously pending, close, and lost are typically there for both.
Right. So they're tied to each specific board. You can make as many or as few as you want. Again, just kind of depends on what you want to measure. And how you're using these in tandems with appointments, because frankly, I would probably use appointments for buyer brokerage sign, things like that. You know, it's just up to you and your business and how you run your transaction coordination to what boards you really need, or columns, you know, what you really need across. But the cool thing, let's go ahead and hop into one of that fake deal and just look at the, or we can add a new one.
Let's
start fresh.
Let's add one, shall we? So for adding a name, people do it a bunch of different ways. Some people do the contact name. Some people do the property address of what the closing was on. Personally, I think it's good to have the address of the property, just because one contact could have multiple deals. So you want to know which deal that is, what property is being referenced. So let's just do like 232 Banana Avenue. And then adding the price, obviously. Want to be mindful of your green check marks.
Yep.
All the time. We've got a projected close date. I mean, obviously we're entering this one under the buyer agreement signed, but projected close dates, go ahead and gear that up. And then this is where you can also add a little bit more details, such as commissions, if you guys are having different kinds of splits within your brokerage. And you can do that by dollar or percentage.
Yeah, that's pretty handy. And one quick note on the team split and the name, I want to cover something real quick too. On the agent and the team split, the agent split goes to whoever is listed on the team. So be mindful of that. We've had some clients that'll add themselves to the deal, and then it gets confusing because the team money and the agent money goes to the team lead. So you don't, if you're a team owner or admin, you're going to see all the boards. So you don't have to necessarily add yourself as a team member because you're going to see it. So if you're not in the transaction, a general best practice is that you don't need to be on the team if you just want to see it. That's a little more about whose responsibility and where the splits go to. The splits aren't all that deep. Like this is not a brokerage level tool where you could say like, this is how much your check is. It's really more of kind of a gross pipeline, you know, type of number. And back to the name really quick. Like Bridget mentioned, you know, if sometimes it's a buyer, you don't always have an address. So a good best practice is if it's a buyer agreement signed, you may not have a property address yet. So you might make the buyer agreement sign the name. Then when they move to pending, you can update it to be the property address because there is now a property address. And then Bridget, we can head down to like, this is where you would add people, add your contacts that are party to the deal. So, and they don't have to be, it's anybody that's in your follow boss.
So you always want to be mindful that you're adding whoever is buying 2323 Banana Avenue to this. If you're creating the deal from the deals tab up here, when you create it into the profile, we'll get to that in just a moment, it'll automatically add that person for you. So this is also good, especially if you have like relationships, if it's a husband and a wife, make sure that you're adding all people involved. And then
Right.
same with the team members. If you worked with another agent on it, like Lee had mentioned before, or anybody involved in the transaction here.
Right, for sure. And then even adding that description, if you need to say something like, I don't know, hey, they might terminate this one because they have another one they also want to make an offer on or whatever. This is better to put in the deal card tied to the deal than in the contact record, because you're not going to see it in the contact record when you're just looking at the person. But, this is more of a descriptive tied to this transaction. We'll get into custom fields in a second, but this is the title company or the attorney, like any of those things you would want to put in here, can be really beneficial. We mentioned this in a training earlier today, but like help your future self by like, when you click on this, like make good notes so you don't have to hop in and figure out 10 things.
Mhm.
You're like, hey, it's all right here. I know what I'm looking for here.
Yeah, everything you need right here. I've seen, a kind of a useful thing for people with listings and stuff. If they have a listing, maybe like what the lockbox code is or something. So when agents reach out to them, obviously you're not going to memorize every single lockbox code that you have for all of your properties. So just different little use cases like this.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a really good one, especially again, if you have a TC working it or an inspector needs to call and get a code or whatever, like just make it easy for that.
Right in the deal for you.
Exactly. We'll tackle custom fields now. And then I do want to hop into a contact record, Bridget, and show people how to create a deal from the contact record. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Good.
So your custom fields are customizable. So whatever makes sense for you and your brokerage on, some high level things that you want all of your agents to be making sure to fill out or put in. And you can do that in the edit screen that we saw before. But yeah, what are some best practices that you've seen with other people with the custom fields, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I love using them for some of we just made these up in the demo account, but I think some of these are the ones, like we have a closing date above that may or may not fluctuate, but I called it proposed in this, maybe contract closing date might be a better date, because as we all know, unfortunately, the contract closing date isn't always the actual closing date. So if you wanted to track that, your contingencies like the appraisal due date or when's the inspection period up, really handy to have in here. We're going to get to some caveats in just a minute, but yeah, which inspector are they using? Which, who is the lender? If you're not using lenders in Follow Up Boss, anything tied to this deal, that someone might want to know. Again, help someone else help you. If you have a TC, get them all this info, and then it's out of sight, out of mind. I gave you all the dates. Here you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like some agents are like, oh, well, I don't really know what to do for the description. If they have good custom fields in here, then the description is kind of these custom fields made out for them for what you're searching for to know, maybe as an admin or an owner about a certain deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. Bridget, let's show one more time where to find and edit those, because I want to talk about the types just a little bit.
Yes.
So if we go back to that gear,
So
and I want to go to the column names too, but yeah, that's where the custom fields are. But to that point, it's very important, obviously, that you name it well and get the right format, because if it's not a date, it's not going to be searchable. Again, I'm going to get the caveat in a minute. It's not going to be as easy to find if you just type in a date in a text field versus assigning a date in a date field.
Yep.
Same with number. You can sort by money or whatever. And then drop down is really good for if you have consistent, like if you have 5 lenders you use, you could do that here, and that disables any spelling errors or anything like that, where you don't have 97 different inspectors that are just different spellings or lenders that are just different spellings. So it eliminates the ability for somebody to create a new person that you've never heard of because they forgot to put in a space or they spelled their last name wrong or something like that.
Yeah. Keeping it organized is key.
Yeah, it really is. So, and then the hide if empty, we're not big fans of that. We typically uncheck that box.
Yeah.
read only will make it to where only an owner or admin can update it. So again, if it's a field like CD sent or wire sent or something where you really don't want anybody to edit it, but somebody, you know, on your admin team, you can make it read only. And so that way the agent can see, oh, hey, you know, the wiring instructions were sent as an FYI, but it's not something they need to be able to change.
Correct.
So cool. Wanted to tackle that. One thing I will mention, which is an important caveat, we're working on getting you guys a date on when this will happen. The deal custom fields currently still, they don't work with smart lists. Like they're not a column you can put in your smart list. So you can't make a smart list that says, show me my upcoming closing dates. They also cannot yet trigger automations.
Right.
We know those are coming. We don't have a date. So don't let that keep you from using it. But I want to be really, you know, overly mindful or overly clear that currently those things don't happen. But they are coming. And Bridget, one last thing I just thought of, can you click back into one of the pipelines? Just buyers is fine.
Yep.
This is a little weird too. There's a little pencil, like if you go to pending, you mouse over the pending name at the top, there's a little pencil that appears when you mouse over it. And that's how you change both the name of the deal stage and or the color. So you can, if you have a certain color you want for different ones, you can edit that. You can edit the name. And don't delete stages, especially if they have deals in them. Just don't do it. One other quick thing, go ahead and click on the closed pencil, Bridget, because there is a checkbox for using that. You can name it whatever you want. If you want to name it past clients or closings we had in 2023, you can name it whatever you want. But that checkbox is what's going to give you the reporting around. You've got X number of deals coming up, and you've got X number of deals that have already closed, and all those tallies of commissions and all that.
Right. And also one other quick thing is, you know, as much access as many things that the admins can do, just like with those main contact stages, only an owner can adjust or add new stages or change the names or anything like that. So
yeah, that's really important. And I forgot to mention, but I want to also be really clear about this. If you're using a system like a Sisu or an open to close or RealScale, all of those systems sync with these boards. So be extra careful. You can set up your own settings, so we don't know what your settings are, but some of these deal stages do link to a Sisu or an open to close or a RealScale or another system you might be using. So be mindful in editing that you want them to line up. So, you know, if you're integrated with a tool like that, maybe check with them first before you edit too much here. So Bridget, let's hop into, I do want to do deal reporting, which isn't on our list, but let's hop into the creating the contact from a contact record, or creating the deal from a contact record.
I agree. So let's keeping consistent. We'll go with a client because there's probably going to be a deal with a client coming up soon here. Let's see where are we going in Gotham?
Yeah,
Bruce.
there you go. Go to Bruce.
Ooh, we've already closed with Bruce. So we've got a 2-timer over here. We have another one. So this is actually I'm kind of glad that this happened, because this goes to show that you can add multiple deals for people. So, all right, we already had a deal with Bruce, and now we're about to go and get another one with him, which is great. We all love repeat customers, right?
And again, to your point, Bridget, when you hop into that record, when they come back on your site or whatever, you've got right there, oh, this guy already did a deal with us a couple of years ago. So
yeah,
you know, you got that intel.
Yeah, I know this guy. So you just do the little check mark, create the deal here. And then, like I was saying, he's already attached to it. So you don't even need to worry about the second step of getting him in on it. He's already right here. And kind of the same steps. So get your prices in. It's then the same here. He went up this time.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been
And similarly, if they're a buyer and a seller, you're going to want to have separate deals for them. Number one, because
Yeah.
those are separate transactions as far as the dates and the deals that happen. But again, you'll see that here on the right-hand side.
Yep. And then you just go through all of your little steps here, adding in what matters, little descriptions if you want, filling out those custom fields, create your deal here. And here we go. Oh, one thing is when you click on the deal itself, it'll bring that deal back up in the contact profile, and you can change the deal stage from here as well. So right now he's in buyer agreement signed. Drop that down. We're going into pending. Things are looking good. And if you just go done and save it, you'll see here that now he's in pending. And it tells you here also that he's in the buyer stage. So if this was property that he was selling or one of your listings, then it would say pending in sellers. And then if you click on the buyers there, it'll bring you to all of your deals pipeline.
Yeah.
And you can also get back into the contact profiles here by clicking on their little initials.
Yeah, I love those shortcuts. Anytime you save a click or having to type in a search or whatever, that's where it's at.
I agree. So
love it. One other kind of, no, I'm jumping ahead. I'll stick to the list because I already skipped something. One other quick thing to mention too is we love using these. We've actually started using these internally even more for us. For anything that can use that kind of, it's called Kanban style, the cards like Trello. We definitely recommend, recruiting is another good one because, you may want to keep a recruiting like, hey, this one's here. This one's there. Hey, this guy's in hot. Hey, this guy's, in that. So you can almost use it as a mini project management system. I mean, if you need that, go to Trello or Monday or ClickUp or whatever, but like it can be a cool little mini one. We see people use rental stages because they want to separate out their renters from their buyers. And there's obviously less and different things that happen with a renter than with a buyer. Something I even thought of added to our list is onboarding agents. If you wanted to have a board that was like, starting to onboard, has their logins, things like that. You could certainly manage that here as well. I think Marianella's comment, close deals organized by date, latest oldest. We can kind of do that. I'll show a trick on that. And Joseph had a great question too. We'll cover when we get to reporting. But, again, you can use these for whatever you want. Anything you want to kind of organize that goes through a bit of a funnel process. A lot of cool things you could potentially do. Again, if you're synced to another platform, just be mindful that you're not breaking anything, but lots of good uses here. So,
and one quick thing on that to piggyback off that a little bit is all of your agents can still see these different columns and types of deal stages that you have. So they can't see anything in them. It's very much like anything that is assigned to them is what they see on theirs aspect of things. But they will be able to kind of see if you're messing around and have some, Kanban type situation stuff going on up here. But they won't have access to any of the deals made in it. And one other quick thing is I showed you guys how to change from buyer agreement signed to pending in the contact profile. But what I love about deals in the deals profile is these are all click and drop. And a lot of people don't realize that. So we're in pending now. It's closing day. All you have to do is drag and drop 1, 2, 3, 4 Batcave Drive into closed and you're good to go. Simple as that. No extra steps.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I forget that too. A lot of times people don't realize you just drag them. That's part of the beauty of it. You can do it in the contact record. You can do it here. Just drag it. We're going to get into the deal reporting in a minute, but another cool thing is that movement is timed in Follow Boss. So when you get into the reporting, it's going to say this person's been in the pending stage for 80 days or whatever. So actually moving them does assist you in the back end to saying like, oh, this person's been in buyer agreement signed for 120 days. Maybe we need to pay attention to them or move them out of there or do something. So that's an important one. I changed up our agenda a little bit, Bridget. I think I want to hop into deal reporting. Since I've already gone out of order the whole time, we might as well just scrap the order.
What's order?
But deal reporting, there's both a button right there for it in deals, or you go to reporting deals. It's the same thing. And it's pretty, yeah, the internet doesn't like us today.
No, not my friend.
It's pretty interesting what you can do here. Unfortunately, there is not a you still have to switch between the pipelines. There's not a show all pipelines. That's another feature we've actually sent and recommended. So unfortunately, it's hard to view your buyers and the sellers like totally congruent for everybody. But that's a suggestion we have made and will continue to make, because we know it's great to have them separated, but really what we want to know is how many closings do we have total, whether they're buyers, sellers, or investors or whatever. But pretty good stuff here. Again, there's a couple things across the top that are the ones across the very top. I learned this a few years ago and I had no idea. The ones across the top are the aggregate of that board. They don't change when you filter below. But for example, Bridget, if you can change that all time to like, I don't know, last 90 days or something, just not all time. Now you can see the top line is still your big aggregate number, but where it says closed deals and upcoming deals, that is now on this last 30 days. And the deals listed below are only the deals in the last 30 days.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Now you can sort. This is kind of sort of Marinella's question. You can click on most of these headings and sort. So if you click on close date, it's already sorted by close date. You see the little arrow. But if you want to click on any of these headers, you can sort, by new to old. So this is a little bit what you're saying, Marinella, although I think you might be talking about in the contact record, because I know we've had that conversation. But this is a cool way that you can sort by like, what's their status? What's the stage? Bridget, do me a favor, click on name. I don't know if this works. I don't think, oh, it does. Look at that. Joseph, that's what you're asking about. I think that's new. You can keyword search there for the name. Although it's going to be the property address. I don't know if it'll work with the buyer name. It's going to be the deal card name. So that's new. I actually haven't seen that. I was actually hoping that was there when I saw Joseph's question.
Yeah, so it is just.
So it's just that, unfortunately, it's just the deal name. But again, this might inform your deal naming strategy. You might want to name it address, buyer name, and then you can use the keyword search there. So that's pretty handy. Time and stage, if you want to try to, view that. When did they enter the stage? If you want to sort by highest price to lowest price. And you can do this as well with closed deals. I think the settings we're in is, it's last year. So these would have been prior closed. So you can manipulate this data a bit for your prior closings as well. And Bridget, we might as well, you can do the everyone drop down too. If you're doing a one-on-one with an agent and you want to just, pull up their upcoming. Yeah, sorry. We never make deals assigned to you. Sorry. But this would be great for a one-on-one too, where you again have that high level data. You can drill down more and say, hey, I'm meeting with Bridget in an hour. Like, let me pull up her deals so we can go over, hey, cool, you've got 5 pending. You had 3 closed last month. Really great stuff you can do here. So Scott, this is a great question too about the Brokerment two-way communication. I don't know why I didn't mention Brokerment along with the others. I would have to check that best practice 100%. If I recall, Brokerment syncs wholly between the two. So I don't know if there's a best practice necessarily, maybe just an internal best practice, but Scott, I'll make a note to get back to you on that. I've actually got a good contact at Brokerment that we can loop in and confirm that 100%. His question was, should you start a new deal in Follow Up Boss or in Brokerment? My bet would be in Follow Up Boss because you've already got the contact in here. You've already got a little more of that intel. And so it'd be easier to then start it here instead of manually entering all of it into Brokerment. But I will check with my my person and get back. And then there's one more. I don't know if that answered Marianella's question, the sorting. Yeah, and Ebony, I know you guys are broker mint too, so I will keep you updated as well. Perfect. Cool. So I think that's the yeah, Joseph, that does not work well. Joseph asked about if there's a second agent split on it. I would use a custom field for that. That's currently the only workaround. Unfortunately, the agent split is assigned to anyone who's an agent on there. And unfortunately, it will duplicate that commission. So if you put in a $1,500 agent commission and you have 2 agents, each agent is going to get $1,500 the way it's set up right now, which is 200% of the commission. So we know that doesn't work. So unfortunately, Joseph, that just doesn't work right now, but I would do a custom field just to be able to actually put the number in and use it. So yeah, Marinella, I know what you're saying. In the actual deal section, you can't
Getting this
you can't do that. So, and similarly for what Joseph said, you can't do that here. You can do it in reporting.
Yeah.
Although you can do Command or Control F, and that will search your entire screen. So if you did Command F and then banana, or that might even work on people. You want to try that real quick, Bridget?
Sure. No.
It doesn't. All right, that's a good idea. See, there you go. So it's showing you there's
trying to go with it.
There's 4 deals with 1, 2, 3. So
yeah.
Cool. All right, perfect.
Oh.
So covered that.
One more little thing to touch on with the reporting aspect of the deals is just like you've got the leaderboard for, overall agent action. Clearly, Caroline's the only one who's doing anything in this account, I guess. If you go over to this activity leaderboard, there's a deals leaderboard too. So you'd be able to see all of your, highest profiting agents. This is more kind of probably for an admin thing. Right here in a deals leaderboard as well. Kind of a little.
Glad you mentioned that. I still forget about that. It's been around for a while. And interestingly, this does have the all pipeline. So it does not, you can drill down, I think, to buyer and seller, but this one actually does show you the aggregate buyer and seller.
Yeah.
So you can view one particular one or all. So again,
so that's a little bit of a workaround for seeing all of them, but yeah, a lot of people forget about it. Even sometimes I forget about it. I'm not entirely sure how I just thought of it, but I was like, oh yes, deals leaderboard. Got to tell them about that.
I'm glad you did.
It's a fun little feature.
I'm glad you did. I added it to our agenda and checked it off at the same time. So
beautiful.
And then one other cool trick you can use, and this is important, there's some specifics to this, but like you have an automation, a deal stage can be a trigger for an automation. So you can set up an automation where when you change the deal stage, it changes the contact stage. So for example, if you had a deal and waiting on appraisal, if that was something you used, and you wanted, when you move it to pending, you wanted the contact stage to update to pending, you can do that through an automation. So you would select deal stage change. We can go ahead and build it.
Yeah. Well, we will need to build the action plan first.
True.
You got to do the stage change from your action plan. So it looks like somebody else has been playing around
with that
in here. But still, just for presentation purposes, we'll go ahead and create one. So we'll say deal stage pending to main stage.
And I know I always harp on this, but name these well. Name it like deal stage changes, contact record stage pending,
Very important. All right, so pending, and then obviously automatically pause. That's not necessarily relevant here. Save that bad boy. Now we can build that automation since we have an action plan to run it. So if your stage changes to pending.
Oh, actually, that was the stage though. Not the deal stage.
Oh, hello.
I knew you knew that, but then once you get halfway through it and be like, wait, it doesn't work.
Deal stage change to pending. And you can do that for both of them as well. So hopefully you guys are all tagging your people appropriately, and you can do dealers pending or buyers pending and sellers pending, and then add that action. Deal stage pending.
Again, why naming it makes sense, because you have to find it when you are applying it.
And then automations like to be a little bit sneaky here. And if you don't name them, they name them all these sort of outrageous different kinds of names. For action plans, you have to name something before you can hit that save button. But for automations, they let you go a little bit willy-nilly. And then they name them something equally willy-nilly. So want to be just as clear with the automation names as well. Hit your green check mark. Save. We'll go ahead and save and enable. And let's go ahead back into our deals here. Find one of our pendings. Move this guy over to close. Oh, wait, no. Gotcha. Let's see. Frank's going under contract. So we just moved that stage into pending. We go back in here on him. His main stage here is now pending as well. Unfortunately, you can't do it vice versa. So you can't make it so when you change this stage to pending, it changes the deal stage to pending. But, you know, as long as agents and people on your team are keeping up with those deal stages and making sure that they're accurate, it can be one less step for them to make sure that these stages are accurate as well.
Yep, absolutely. And then those obviously should be powering some smart lists that you have. So now the agent has it in their pending if they need to take action on it. But, and it, honestly, given the choice, I'd rather have the automation work that way. If I can only have one way, I think the deal is the most important data with all the bits and pieces and the commission and the other people and the custom fields and all that. So it does actually make sense a little bit that the deal kind of powers this. But once again, Brokerment, Sisu, like if you use open to close, RealScale, if you're using a system like that, just be mindful of how the whole ecosystem works together. You start doing crazy automations that trigger other things to happen in other systems, like you just want to be careful with that. So, and that kind of ties into kind of the last bits that we have to mention, which, you know, personally, you know, we as a company really like to recommend ideally having your admin staff work in the deals. We don't love trying to get agents to update from, you know, if we can get agents to put them in as a deal because they had a meeting or because they signed an agreement, that's awesome. But I think the expectation of having an agent, you know, always move it from buyer agreement signed to appointment met to under contract contingent to pending to closed, it's just pretty unlikely that you're going to get great data if you're expecting agents to update those. So we really love having admin staff ideally kind of be the final touch point on that. Even if your agents are doing their own contract to close, just that's going to be some really important data for you to have, both based on when the stages are changed and when things are updated. So if possible, if you're a solo agent, look, we get it. You have to do all this stuff. But again, we highly recommend not really expecting agents to do much beyond going from conversion to hot to, hey, they signed something. And then again, you're going to get the best data just if you have somebody internally filling more of these out. So, and then kind of the last note that we had, if you guys have questions, throw them at us. You guys have been, and we've done our best to tackle those as we go. But, you know, setting a time, even if it's just a calendar reminder or a task and follow-up boss, just to re-audit these and say, is this working? Are we using these? You know, do we need an additional stage in here somewhere? Is that going to really help and kind of inform more of our reporting that we need? Is it too complicated? Do we need a smaller board? But like, unfortunately, these things aren't set it and forget it. So I think dropping a dropping yourself a reminder in 3 months or 6 months to come back and just like, are we using this well? Do we need more custom fields? Are these the right stages? It's just a smart thing to do because it's going to evolve, and Follow Boss always rolls out new features. So
All the time.
like the deal custom fields coming into Smart List, hopefully.
Yeah, they sneak them in on you. Next thing you know, you're like, whoa, we can do that now?
Right. Well, like that keyword thing, I guess that might be there, and it was. So, but I'd never seen that. So, and then one last quick thing I thought of that I didn't mention. You can archive these deals. In the past, it didn't make sense. This may tie into your other question too, Joseph. In the past, if you archived them, they came out of the client records, but that's no longer the case. I used to always advise people to not to archive them. But now you can archive them. So again, to Joseph's point of like, I've got a bajillion people on this board, I can't even find them. Now archiving them does make sense. You can also, though, vertically, or I guess that's horizontally, move them. So you can still drag them. Like if you want Batcave Drive to be at the top there, you can drag it up as well, I believe, unless that's, well, it is first now. So,
yep.
Well, I believe you can drag the top to bottom order of them as well.
Yeah, you can rearrange these. And then so once you do archive, I just did it real quick on that one. I'll do it here too. So it archives, and then you just do your little drop down here, and you can go back in and see all of your archives. And if you do it on accident, you can always unarchive.
Right. And like all things, maybe do a few and just take a look if it's how you want. Don't go in and archive a whole board and be like, oh crap, now I have to go unarchive them because something happened, or I can't, my TC said, hey, I need to see those.
Yeah.
So, be a little mindful of that. But yeah, that's the basics. And Chris just dropped in a link to our YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out. We've got tons of free videos on probably almost all components of Follow Boss and a bunch of other operations type stuff. Always appreciate you guys being on, and you Brokerment guys, I'll get an answer and circle back with you on that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Great job, Bridget.
Appreciate it. Good job, Lee. Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, guys.